Have you ever wondered why some people seem to disappear completely after a breakup, like they've just vanished into thin air? Well, if you're dealing with an INFJ who's been heartbroken, you're about to discover something that might genuinely shock you. What happens when the world's rarest personality type faces their worst emotional nightmare isn't just sad, it's absolutely terrifying. Today we're diving deep into one of the most intense emotional experiences you'll ever learn about. We're talking about what happens when an INFJ gets their heart shattered into pieces. If you've ever loved an INFJ, been friends with one, or you are one yourself, this video is going to hit you like a ton of bricks. INFJs make up less than 2% of the population, and they're known as the advocates for good reason. But when their world comes crashing down through heartbreak, what follows isn't your typical crying into ice cream scenario. Oh no, it's something far more complex and honestly, pretty scary to witness. 1. The INFJ's all-or-nothing love style. Before we jump into the chaos that follows heartbreak, let's talk about how INFJs love in the first place. These folks don't do anything halfway, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. When an INFJ falls in love, they don't just dip their toes in the water, they dive headfirst into the deepest part of the ocean. They give everything they've got, and I mean everything. Their love isn't casual or surface level, it's the kind that runs so deep it becomes part of their identity. INFJs are natural givers who put their partner's needs before their own, sometimes to a fault. They'll remember every little detail about you, anticipate your needs before you even know you have them, and create this beautiful, almost magical bubble where love feels infinite and pure. But here's the thing that makes their eventual heartbreak so devastating. They don't just love you as a person. They love the potential they see in you, the future they've carefully crafted in their minds, and the deep soul connection they believe you share. They've essentially built their entire emotional world around this relationship. So when that world comes crashing down, it's not just losing a boyfriend or girlfriend. It's losing their entire universe. 2. The initial shock, when reality hits like a freight train. The moment an INFJ realizes their relationship is truly over, something absolutely terrifying happens. It's like watching someone get hit by lightning, they just freeze. This isn't your typical breakup tears or anger. No, this is something much more unsettling. INFJs go into what I call emotional shock mode. They might seem eerily calm on the outside, but inside, their entire world is literally falling apart piece by piece. You might see them nodding along to the breakup conversation, maybe even being understanding about it. But don't let that fool you. Their mind is racing at 1,000,000 miles per hour, trying to process what's happening while simultaneously trying to figure out where they went wrong. The scariest part? They'll often start blaming themselves immediately. Their brain kicks into overdrive, analyzing every conversation, every moment, every breath they took in the relationship, looking for clues they might have missed. This initial shock phase can last anywhere from a few hours to several days, and during this time, they're basically running on autopilot while their soul tries to catch up with what just happened. 3. The great disappearing act, going ghost mode. Here's where things get really intense and, honestly, pretty concerning for anyone who cares about the INFJ in question. After that initial shock wears off, they do something that absolutely terrifies their friends and family. They vanish. I'm not talking about just needing some space or taking a few days off social media. INFJs have perfected the art of disappearing so completely that it's like they never existed in the first place. They'll stop answering texts, calls, emails, basically any form of communication. Their social media goes dead silent. They might even physically remove themselves from places where they know they'll run into mutual friends or reminders of their past relationship. This isn't just antisocial behavior, it's pure survival mode. INFJs are incredibly sensitive to emotional energy, and after heartbreak, they're like walking open wounds. Every interaction feels like salt being poured directly onto their soul. They retreat into what psychologists call hermit mode, but for INFJs, this goes way beyond just wanting alone time. They're literally trying to rebuild their entire sense of self from scratch, and they can't do that with other people's energy clouding their judgment. 4. The mental prison, overthinking goes into overdrive. If you think regular people overthink things, You haven't seen anything until you've witnessed a heartbroken INFJ's mind in action. It's like watching someone get trapped in a mental prison of their own making. Every single moment of the relationship gets dissected with surgical precision. They'll replay conversations from months ago, analyzing tone, body language, and hidden meanings that probably weren't even there. They become detectives investigating their own life, looking for evidence of where things went wrong. But here's what makes it truly terrifying: they don't just think about what actually happened. Their intuitive nature goes into hyperdrive, and they start imagining all the scenarios that could have been, should have been, or might still happen. They'll create elaborate stories in their heads about their ex's new life, torture themselves with imaginary scenarios of being replaced, and convince themselves that they were never truly loved in the first place. It's like watching someone voluntarily enter a psychological horror movie that never ends. This mental torture can go on for months, sometimes even years, because INFJs have incredible memories when it comes to emotional experiences. They can recall exactly how they felt during specific moments, which means they basically get to relive the pain over and over again. 5. The identity crisis: who am I without you? Here's perhaps the most heartbreaking part of an INFJ's journey through heartbreak: they literally forget who they are as individuals. Since they invested so much of themselves into the relationship, when it ends, they're left with this terrifying question: who am I when I'm not loving you? INFJs are natural chameleons who adapt to their partner's needs and preferences. Over time, they might have changed their interests, their friend groups, even their life goals to better align with their relationship. So when that relationship disappears, they're left staring at a stranger in the mirror. This identity crisis goes deeper than just feeling lost. They genuinely question their worth as human beings. Since INFJs tend to measure their value by how much they can give to others, losing their primary recipient of love makes them feel completely useless. They'll ask themselves devastating questions like, if I couldn't make this work, what's wrong with me? Or, am I actually capable of being loved? These aren't just passing thoughts. They become core beliefs that shape how they see themselves and their future relationships. The really scary part is how they internalize the breakup. Instead of recognizing that relationships sometimes just don't work out, they turn it into evidence that they're fundamentally flawed as people. 6. The emotional shutdown: becoming numb to survive. After weeks or months of intense emotional pain, something even more concerning happens. INFJs can completely shut down emotionally. It's like watching someone flip a switch and suddenly become a different person entirely. This isn't just feeling sad or depressed. This is complete emotional numbness where they stop feeling anything at all. They go through the motions of daily life like robots, completing tasks without any real engagement or joy. Friends and family often find this phase the most disturbing because the person they knew, someone who was incredibly empathetic and emotionally intelligent, suddenly seems cold and disconnected from everything around them. This shutdown is actually a protective mechanism. Their emotional system gets so overwhelmed that it basically says, nope, we're done processing feelings for a while. It's their psyche's way of giving them a break from the constant pain. But here's what makes it terrifying: while they're shut down emotionally, they're still functioning intellectually. So they become these eerily calm, logical people who can discuss their heartbreak like they're talking about the weather. It's deeply unsettling for anyone who cares about them. 7. The self-blame spiral: everything was my fault. One of the most destructive patterns that emerges during an INFJ's heartbreak is their tendency to take responsibility for absolutely everything that went wrong. And I mean everything. They'll convince themselves that if they had just been more understanding, more supportive, more attractive, more interesting, basically more of everything, the relationship would have worked out. They create these elaborate stories where they're the villain in their own love story. This self-blame goes beyond normal relationship reflection. INFJs will literally rewrite history in their minds, turning innocent moments into evidence of their failures. That time they were tired after a long day at work? Obviously, they weren't being supportive enough. That joke that didn't land quite right? Clear proof they weren't good enough. The terrifying part is how convinced they become of these false narratives. They'll argue with friends and family who try to show them a more balanced perspective, insisting that everyone else just doesn't understand how badly they messed up. This self-blame spiral can last for years and often prevents them from seeing their ex-partner's role in the relationship's failure. They become so focused on their perceived shortcomings that they can't recognize legitimate issues like incompatibility or their partner's own problems. 8. The trust issues, building walls higher than skyscrapers. Once an INFJ has been through the ringer of heartbreak, their approach to future relationships changes dramatically. The person who once loved with reckless abandon now becomes incredibly cautious, almost paranoid about letting anyone get close again. They develop what I call emotional walls that are absolutely impenetrable. These aren't just normal boundaries, they're full-blown fortresses designed to keep everyone at a safe distance. They become experts at keeping conversations surface level and deflecting any attempts at deeper connection. The really sad part is that INFJs desperately want to connect with others, but their fear of being hurt again overrides their natural desire for intimacy. They'll sabotage potential relationships before they even have a chance to develop, convincing themselves they're protecting everyone involved. They become hypervigilant about red flags, sometimes to the point where they see warning signs that aren't actually there. A new partner being busy at work becomes evidence that they're losing interest. A delayed text response turns into proof that they're talking to someone else. This level of anxiety and mistrust is exhausting for both the INFJ and anyone trying to love them. They want to believe in love again, but their broken heart keeps whispering that it's not safe to try. 9. The perfectionism trap, never being enough. Heartbreak often triggers an INFJ's perfectionist tendencies in the most unhealthy ways. They become obsessed with the idea that if they can just improve themselves enough, they'll never be rejected again. This isn't just about hitting the gym or learning new skills. INFJs will try to perfect every aspect of their personality, often losing themselves in the process. They'll study relationship advice like it's a college course, analyze their every word and action, and try to become this impossible ideal of the perfect partner. The problem is that their definition of perfect is usually based on what they think their ex wanted, or what they believe would make them impossible to leave. So they're not actually improving for themselves, they're trying to become someone else entirely. This perfectionism becomes a prison where nothing they do is ever good enough. They'll achieve amazing things, get promotions, learn new languages, travel to incredible places, but none of it matters because it doesn't fill the hole left by their lost love. The most heartbreaking part is watching them celebrate these achievements with hollow smiles, knowing that they're still measuring their worth by whether someone who's no longer in their life would be proud of them. 10. The comparison game, everyone else is better. Social media becomes absolute torture for a heartbroken. Every happy couple photo, every engagement announcement, every anniversary post feels like a personal attack on their already fragile self-esteem. They'll spend hours scrolling through their ex's social media, torturing themselves with evidence of how much better their ex's life is without them. If their ex starts dating someone new, the INFJ will become obsessed with comparing themselves to this new person. But it doesn't stop with their ex. They'll start comparing themselves to literally everyone around them. Their coupled friends become reminders of their own failure at love. Single friends who are happily dating become evidence that something's fundamentally wrong with them specifically. This comparison game extends beyond relationships too. They'll convince themselves that they're behind in every area of life, career, friendships, personal growth, because they wasted so much time on a relationship that didn't work out. The really devastating part is how they twist their own achievements to fit this negative narrative. They'll have incredible successes but dismiss them as not counting because they achieved them while single, as if their accomplishments are only valid when witnessed by a romantic partner. 11. The future fear, never being loved again. Perhaps the most terrifying aspect of an INFJ's heartbreak journey is their deep, bone-chilling fear that they'll never experience love again. This isn't just sadness about being single, it's genuine terror about spending the rest of their life alone. INFJs are natural romantics who believe in soulmates and the one. When that person leaves, it feels like their one shot at true love just walked out the door forever. They can't imagine finding that same level of connection with anyone else because, in their minds, what they had was once in a lifetime special. This fear becomes so powerful that it influences every decision they make. They might stay in jobs they hate because making changes feels too risky when they're already dealing with heartbreak. They avoid social situations where they might meet new people because the thought of dating again feels impossible. Some INFJs become so convinced they're unlovable that they stop trying altogether. They'll tell friends and family that they're focusing on themselves or taking a break from dating, but really, they've given up hope entirely. The saddest part is watching them create elaborate backup plans for a life without romantic love, focusing intensely on careers, hobbies, or other relationships to try to fill a void they believe will never be filled by a partner again. 12. The slow healing, finding light in the darkness. Here's the thing about INFJs and heartbreak. While their journey through it is absolutely terrifying to witness, their capacity for healing and growth is equally remarkable. The same intensity that makes their pain so devastating also fuels their eventual recovery. The healing process for an INFJ doesn't happen overnight, and it's rarely linear. They'll have days where they feel like they're making progress, followed by setbacks that make them feel like they're back at square one. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, something beautiful starts to happen. They begin to rediscover who they are as individuals. All that time spent in isolation and self-reflection, while painful, eventually leads to incredible self-awareness. They start to understand their patterns, their needs, and their boundaries in ways they never did before. The INFJ's natural wisdom begins to emerge from the wreckage of their broken heart. They develop a deeper understanding of love, not just the fairy tale version they believed in before, but the real, complicated, beautiful, and sometimes painful reality of human connection. This healing phase is where you see the true strength of an INFJ. The same person who disappeared completely into their pain slowly emerges as someone stronger, wiser, and more authentic than they were before. Conclusion: watching an INFJ go through heartbreak is like witnessing someone die and be reborn as a completely different person. It's terrifying, heartbreaking, and absolutely devastating to see someone you care about go through such intense emotional trauma. But here's what I want you to remember: whether you're an INFJ going through this yourself, or you love someone who is, this isn't the end of the story. The intensity that makes INFJ heartbreak so scary is the same intensity that makes their capacity for love, growth, and healing absolutely extraordinary. If you're an INFJ watching this and recognizing yourself in these patterns, please know that what you're experiencing is valid, understandable, and temporary. Your heart isn't broken beyond repair. It's just learning how to love in a healthier, more sustainable way. And if you love an INFJ who's going through this, the best thing you can do is be patient, consistent, and understanding. Don't try to rush their healing process or convince them to get over it. Just be there, quietly and steadily, showing them through your actions that not everyone will leave. The truth is, a healed INFJ who's been through heartbreak and come out the other side is one of the most incredible people you'll ever meet. They love with wisdom instead of just passion, they set boundaries while still being generous, and they understand the difference between healthy vulnerability and emotional dependency. So yes, INFJ heartbreak is terrifying to witness and experience. But what comes after, the growth, the wisdom, the deeper capacity for authentic love, that's absolutely beautiful. And that's something worth holding on to, even in the darkest moments of the healing journey. Remember, every ending is also a beginning. And for INFJs, sometimes the most beautiful chapters of their lives are written with ink made from tears they shed over chapters that had to end.